Hogwarts Legacy. Oh my lord, were we waiting for this absolute gem of a game. The first real entry into the Harry Potter gamosphere since your boy could finally wipe his own ass. I mean, except for Order of the Phoenix, because I was well and truly old enough to do that, and also that game was mid as hell, and you know it. In reality, I actually wouldn't know if Order of the Phoenix was actually that mid, because well, a little indie developer company, which I'm not sure if you've actually ever heard of, called, what's the name? Give me a sec, the name. Oh, the name. Microsoft. They decided brilliantly somewhere up high in HQ that on their Xbox 360 game cases, that where the discs are placed, they have two bits of extra plastic to kind of hold the disc in place to make sure it doesn't wobble about and scratch. However, what they didn't think through was that through using these two bits of plastic to kind of make it unwobbly, they actually made it so 99.999999999% of cases destroyed the discs within them. And in my household, the Order of the Phoenix game was among those casualties. So thanks, Microsoft. You might have saved me something, you might not have. I will never know. So alas, I digress. Hogwarts Legacy is a wonderful game set in the wizarding world of Harry Potter, and it has blown expectations completely out of the park this year. Being one of the forerunners for the actual game of the year, that's an incredible achievement, especially considering the producers of this game produced Cars 3 as their previous title before taking on Hogwarts Legacy. However, before we get to move on into the burnout ability of said game, we need to talk about the big, gaping, gulping, massive, vast behemoth that's sitting in the room. It's just right there and can't you see it? Look, it's there. The controversy surrounding the game. Now, as a result of this game being based in the wizarding world that J.K. Rowling created, there is a lot of controversy surrounding it, as this game is perceived as supporting some comments and opinions that J.K. has expressed publicly. However, Portkey came out and stated they have not included J.K. Rowling in the creation process of this game in any way, shape, or form. No script writing, story writing, or any of the design suggestions were put to her and approved of by her or anything of the sort. She had no involvement within the creation of this game. Portkey also then went out of their way to create one of the most gender-inclusive character creations that I have ever personally seen across all of gaming. For starters, there are no gender archetypes within this game. You only choose a body type. Unlike more normally, when you do start up a game of this type, you pick male or female. In this game, you pick a body type, and you base a character customization off the body type that you do choose. This is great, as it leaves customizations open to every single body type and character you create, whereas normally you would have limitations based on the gender chosen at the beginning of your character creation. To me, this is a great big leap forward for all of gaming, as if more companies take on this idea of body types rather than genders, then it makes the games themselves more inclusive and a lot more people around the globe feel more represented within gaming, as well as representation and inclusion within games. I feel like it's also a great opportunity to increase role playability within computer games as a whole. Having the ability to choose body types and then customize them how you wish is great. It opens up many doors to players, practically whoever and whatever you wish. However, overall, I do feel like there is some validity to the controversy surrounding this game, as yes, this is still based in the wizarding world that J.K. Rowling created, that millions and millions of people around the globe absolutely adore, and they do still get a monetary gain from purchases of the game itself. However, from a consumer standpoint, I believe there's no reason to boycott or protest against Hogwarts Legacy, as you will just be missing out on a lot of fun and a great experience. And as that is done, it looks like our behemoth is going. So everybody wave goodbye now to the behemoth, you know, bye-bye, bye. Thanks for coming, man. Thanks, bye. Wait, what are you doing? Wave goodbye, wave goodbye, wave. Why aren't you waving? Dude, why aren't you waving? We need, say, be nice to him, man. Oh, he's crying. He's crying. Oh. Hold on, I'll be back. I can't believe you guys did that. Poor form. Absolutely poor form. You're making me upset. You're making me upset. It was just so sad, and this is so sad, and I'm so sad. I'm so sad to say that despite the greatness of Hogwarts Legacy, there were some major downfalls within the game itself that we'll be drawing upon today. However, before we start the big bulky stuff, also known as the meat and potatoes, we should start with the veggies because God knows I need them. Now, between you and me, I need to have a conversation with that behemoth's little cousin because I just need to say, is goddamn give the Quidditch fans some freaking love, please. Do you know how disheartening it is when you fire up the game with a little bit of hope in the back of your mind being like, yeah, Quidditch, we've got to play some Quidditch. Quidditch is going to be in this. I'm feeling it. I don't care if they turned around and said, no, it is going to happen. And then you fire up the game, and within about 30 minutes, the headmaster says, by the way, the Quidditch season is cancelled.
Dude! What the fuck?
Devastating. Absolutely devastating. And the cancellation of the Quidditch season made me realize one thing that has kind of been creeping up in my mind for the last couple of years. Triple A titles these days are no longer adventurous and innovative and exploring different options and mechanics within games. They play everything way too safe these days. Back in the 2000s and late 90s, games and gaming companies were much more willing to explore different avenues of gameplay, see what works, what doesn't, what to do for the next title, all this kind of stuff. And they were willing to add something like Quidditch within a game or even make a solo release of Quidditch, such as this gem. There was a lot more risks taken. And I feel like that is one thing that does let Hogwarts Legacy down as a whole. I would personally much rather be flying my broomstick on the Quidditch field than dragging balls better than another person trying to drag their balls across a big wooden stage that has different numbers based on how close you can get them. Because in reality, the only balls that I want to be dragging are mine across a producer's face for that dumbass game.
We got him.
The more and more I thought about this, I realized that yes, adding Quidditch within a big RPG game such as this would be a difficult task and a lot more work to the developers. However, it would increase the playing longevity greatly, so I'm all for adding Quidditch to the game. God also got me thinking, are there any other games out there that I have played personally or know of that do something similar to having a game like Quidditch within its overall RPG game? And Final Fantasy X does this brilliantly. Within Final Fantasy X, you have the overarching story of Tidus trying to figure out what the hell is going on and Sin being a world destroyer. However, throughout all of this massive RPG, you actually have a sport embedded within the game. In fact, it's even a part of the opening scene. Blitzball, and the way they approached Blitzball was brilliant. Now, I'm very fond of Blitzball, which that is not shared amongst the community, as I know a lot of people disliked it heavily, but I loved it. And it was done in such a way that it didn't force Blitzball down your throat and you had to play it in order to do certain things. There was once or twice where you had to play it, but otherwise you could steer clear of it and really enjoy your time. Doing something like that would be great for Hogwarts Legacy, as the lack of Quidditch only mattered to like a handful or a fair few amount of people, not the entire consumer base itself. So through doing this, you could satisfy the consumer base a lot more and then provide a lot more playing hours to the game. Another thing that Final Fantasy did brilliantly was that they gave some certain incentives to play it if you wish, but didn't make them too key that it would make it so you had to play the game. Doing something like this within Hogwarts Legacy would be amazing as well, making it so that if you played Quidditch, you can get certain broom skins or get certain clothes or certain items just from playing Quidditch. Final Fantasy also added one other major aspect to Blitzball that I feel would work perfectly within Hogwarts Legacy and increase its playing longevity immensely. And that is Final Fantasy peppered all the Blitzball players throughout the playable world, and you could go and have a chat with them and then negotiate contracts to play for your Blitzball team. Doing something like this within Hogwarts Legacy would be really, really cool. You could go to your dormitory and ask a random student, hey, have you tried out for Quidditch? Or you just strike up a conversation with them in general and they mention Quidditch as an interest. And then from there, they have some sort of fetch quest task for you to do that's very small and easily completed. And as a reward for you doing so, they will go and try out Quidditch for you. For example, they could say, oh, I've lost my cat, I haven't been able to find them, and you go find the cat and bring it back to the student. After that, they say, thank you very much, I will try out for Quidditch. They go, they practice, and you see how they stack against the rest of the players there, and you build your team from there. That could be a very, very cool mechanic within the game. And as you're adding certain little missions to the game, as well as NPC interactions, it's going to add a lot more depth and a lot more playability to the game, therefore decreasing the overall burnout ability of Hogwarts Legacy. In short, adding a playable Quidditch season within the game while taking some of these aspects from Final Fantasy would overall boost the playing longevity of Hogwarts Legacy immensely. Oh wow, the behemoth's little cousin there is saying something to me. What are you saying, little buddy? What are you saying? Let me. Oh really? You're saying that this game relies too much on pre-existing fans and doesn't show much love to newcomers? Interesting. I really need to stop this as a segue. Overall, my experience in playing Hogwarts Legacy is that the game itself, although it is great, really struggles to bring in people who aren't that well versed in Harry Potter and haven't spent much time around or within that wizarding world. A lot of elements within the game are tailored to pre-existing Harry Potter fans. For example, the homage to Robbie Coltrane as a little hidden gem, amongst other little hidden gems around the whole world. Having a Weasley be the headmaster of Hogwarts at this time is kind of lost on people who haven't watched the movies or read the books. This, as well as finding Ollivanders and Hogsmeade and the wand selection process, are all lost on newcomers. And for me, these were part of the key integral moments of the game that made me actually enjoy playing it. Whereas a lot of the other elements of it were things that I didn't really enjoy so much or were kind of average as a whole. Whereas a lot of other elements within the world, albeit they were fun and exploring was great, they just didn't quite hit the mark as the nostalgia and great feeling that a lot of all these little aspects that are tailored for people who are already fans of the franchise know about. However, this is not to say that this game is completely unplayable for newcomers. The world that is created is one, remarkably accurate, and they give a good sense of environment within the game, from the Black Lake to the Dark Forest to the lands beyond all of that. Even the castle makes you feel very safe. The whole world itself that is created is beautiful and immaculate and executed to perfection. You can ride your broom around, you can even ride a hippogriff, which unlocks a childhood fantasy that you didn't even know that you had when you were a little one. It is amazing, and everywhere is available right from the get-go, the instant you get your broom. Hell, you can even run to the other end of the map if you really wanted to. Whatever you can see, you can touch, which also means that early on you can start versing the most difficult enemies in the whole game if you wish to, which also means from early stages you can start versing much higher level enemies if that's what you wanted to do to test your mettle. But that then brings us to the combat of Hogwarts Legacy, and overall I have to say the combat is fun. The combat within Hogwarts Legacy is extremely enjoyable and extremely fun to do. The animations are very exciting and vivid, and slinging your favorite spells you saw slung on the screen coming out of your own wand that you control with a controller or a keyboard is a great feeling. They've really nailed the way to have multiple spell slots used, and you can cast a myriad of different spells at a time. How Porky have approached this and executed this is amazing. Special magic that builds up in a bar and you can finish people off with a single move, or tossing people around using Levioso, like you're the Hulk throwing Loki around Tony Stark's room. The combat is seemingly endless and extremely enjoyable. However, after a time, combat becomes way too easy within this game and eventually feels like it's more of a chore than enjoyment. This stems from there only really being 4 main types of enemies throughout the game: evil witches / wizards, goblins, trolls, and spiders. The limitations on only having a select few amount of enemies means that you can learn their movesets very quickly and combat becomes second nature almost in an instant. You see what foe you're coming up against. This is also made easier as there is a quest line within the game where you are part of an underground fight club within Hogwarts, where you actually learn how to take on different witches and wizards and what they're weak and strong against. As a result, it just means that you become way too overpowered and familiar with everything too quickly, and this is especially so if you start delving into the dark arts within the game. Yes, you heard that right. You can use the dark arts within Hogwarts Legacy. I know this is common knowledge at this point, but you can use the dark arts and start basically be Voldemort, right? Right? Wrong. No, you can't be Voldemort within the game. You can't be evil or choose to be good. You just have to do the story that they give you, like a good little magic wielder,
Roger.
and go through the game that way. You can't go around just killing people at will. A lot of the NPCs are untouchable. Makes sense. You don't really want to be attacking everyone in Hogwarts or Hogsmeade. You can't go around stealing items. These are not things built into the game. You can only harm or cast spells against enemies you find outside of the castle and Hogsmeade. The lack of being able to actually do these kind of things negatively impacts the game as a whole. For example, they have a stealth mechanic embedded into the game where you use a charm to turn invisible. However, you're not actually invisible, you're just kind of camouflaged into your surroundings. People can still spot you if you get close enough or you're too obvious, which is a great mechanic, and I felt they could have played on this very well and made it a lot more useful within the game. However, through the overpowered combat, you actually have no use for the stealth system unless you are forced to use it on a stealth mission that they force you to go through. Otherwise, there is seemingly no point in actually having a stealth mechanic such as this within the game, especially as you can't steal items from vendors. However, what you can do is simply walk into their store and take everything from their chest and go out. That's a thing, and if that was my store, I'd be pissed. But if that's how society is, that's how society goes. But to me personally, the fact that you can't steal items and the fact that the combat system is extremely overpowered means that they're having a stealth mechanic in place is practically redundant and pointless. And a stealth mechanic could be a very cool tool to use within the game, as you are only a 5th year student and you probably aren't the most powerful witch or wizard known to mankind at this point. You are still a student and you still have a lot more to learn, which doesn't seem that apparent when you come up against fully fledged evil witches and wizards. However, the very next thing we need to talk about is something that is major, and it does kind of blend into what I just spoke about with not being able to be evil or at least choose the path of being good. And that is, this game desperately needs a form of karma system embedded into it. To explain what I mean by this, the game I'm going to mainly draw inspiration from for this idea is Mass Effect, and the way that they approached good and bad decisions and decision trees within the game, as well as Fable and how they focused more on environmental impacts of your actions on the game. Now, within Hogwarts Legacy, you do have decisions to make within conversation and decision trees. However, they pretty much all lead you to the exact same point despite what you say, and most of your conversations seem pretty negligible and almost pointless. I would rather see a full-fledged cutscene like you would see in God of War when it comes to conversations than constantly have to pick this or this option throughout every single one of my conversations and cutscenes. Mass Effect approaches the decision trees within conversation brilliantly, and what they do is they provide you an obviously good and bad response, or in the case of Andromeda, too many goddamn responses. But the original trilogy had this system in place. And what it did was, from every good and bad decision you made in Mass Effect, they kept track of it all, and you earned points, either Paragon or Renegade, based on your decisions. They made it so certain conversation options were only unlocked if you had enough points invested in either good or bad, meaning that each conversation you had ended up being impactful in some way, shape, or form, especially if they had options to do the good or bad thing. And often, failure to fully commit yourself to either Paragon or Renegade within Mass Effect would mean that you genuinely couldn't do much within conversations, and party members of yours would die as a result of what you have said and done. Doing something like this would greatly benefit Hogwarts Legacy, as imagine your conversations throughout the whole entirety of your gameplay, and you have built up all these bad points, and you're sitting there, you're turning evil, and your most favorite character is out on a mission with you, and because you have decided to be evil, they die. You don't have the option to save them anymore. They just die right in front of you. What this would also do is encourage more than one playthrough, so you can try and see what a good guy would do instead of the bad guy, and see where this story takes you. Another thing to be added, which is more from a Fable perspective, is that in Fable it was more of your actions within the actual game itself that would impact your good and bad level. Now, Hogwarts Legacy has a gaping issue staring at you right in the eye, and that is the fact you can learn the dark arts and not have any consequences come with it. You don't lose part of your soul, you don't lose your way, you don't go to Azkaban. These spells are illegal, and there are no punishments for using them in the slightest. You can use them in front of a professor and they literally could not give a shit. This in turn needs to be rectified and made into a system such as, if you do use dark arts, then you end up building up your evilness within yourself, and your character becomes evil and then puts more points to the evil tree, which means that they then have more evil options throughout the actual storyline. This would be great. It means that it would definitely encourage more than one playthrough, because a good and bad playthrough would have completely different endings and completely different stories. There are friends of mine that wanted to do a purely good guy playthrough of the game, but the game literally forces the dark arts down your throat when certain upgrades or certain spells apply the Cruciatus Curse, for example. Having the Fable and Mass Effect type systems in place would make it so you have the option to be good or bad, or just the good little magic wielder that the game tries to make you. Overall, I firmly believe that adding a karma system that draws upon both Mass Effect and Fable would greatly increase the playing longevity and decrease the burnout ability of Hogwarts Legacy. So much so that this game could turn into potentially one of the most played games for the longest time. The possibilities for each playthrough won't exactly be endless, but at least they'll be different. In Hogwarts Legacy's entirety, I firmly believe it's a great game. Despite me saying it has a lot of key issues, which I believe it does, there are a lot of things that are great about it and that actually mean you can play it for a long time before getting burnt out by it. I didn't even begin to touch on the Room of Requirement within this game, because that could honestly deserve its own video with the amount of hours and intricate details and everything that's within it and that I've seen poured into it. However, including that and everything that I've said today, I firmly believe that Hogwarts Legacy is still a front runner for Game of the Year this year. Very few games released this year do I believe that can actually outclass it in any way, shape, and or form. But as far as burnout ability goes, I give this game a B. Overall, you can play it, you can pour in at least 30 hours into it before it starts to get you and make you feel a bit bored and tired of certain things such as combat or perhaps exploration or what have you throughout the game. Personally, I only played this game for 36 hours and then I got tired of it and couldn't continue. I never finished the actual storyline. I got a fair amount of the way through. A couple of my friends finished and then never picked it up again because there was nothing left to do and they were bored. A lot of the other people that I spoke to continued to play this game to this very day. So there's very mixed reviews on this and very mixed durations before you get burnt out. However, personally, I believe this game is still far more burnoutable than the benchmark that we've had so far in Elden Ring. Overall, this is a great entry into the Harry Potter gamosphere, potentially the best we have ever seen, and I can't wait for the next one to come out to see what improvements they've made and if they've done any of the things that I've listed today, because if they have, oh my lord, will this be getting an absolute bump up to S class. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Ka kite. See you next time.